In the early days of the Roman Republic, the city of Rome was still a rising power in central Italy. Its ambitions to expand its territory and influence often brought it into conflict with its neighbors. One of its most formidable rivals was the Etruscan city of Veii, located just a dozen miles northwest of Rome. Veii was a wealthy and powerful city, perched on a well-fortified plateau and surrounded by fertile lands. It was a center of Etruscan culture and trade, and its people were proud and independent. The rivalry between Rome and Veii was not new. For centuries, the two cities had clashed over control of the Tiber River and its surrounding territories. The river was a vital trade route, and both cities sought to dominate it. Skirmishes and raids were common, but the conflict escalated in the early 4th century BCE when Rome, under the leadership of its magistrates and generals, decided to take decisive action against Veii. The immediate cause of the war was a dispute over the control of Fidenae, a strategic town located between Rome and Veii. Both cities claimed Fidenae as their ally, and tensions boiled over into open warfare. The Romans, determined to assert their dominance, launched a campaign to conquer Veii once and for all. This campaign would culminate in the legendary Siege of Veii, a decade-long struggle that tested the resolve and ingenuity of both sides. The year was 406 BCE, and the Roman army, led by the dictator Marcus Furius Camillus, marched toward Veii. The city was well prepared for a siege. Its high walls, built on a natural plateau, made it nearly impregnable. The Veientines had stockpiled food and supplies, confident that they could outlast any Roman assault. The Romans, however, were equally determined. They established a fortified camp outside the city and began the arduous task of encircling Veii with siege works. The early years of the siege were marked by frustration and hardship. The Romans faced constant harassment from Veientine raiders, who sallied forth from the city to attack their supply lines. The siege dragged on, and the Roman soldiers grew weary. Back in Rome, the people began to question the wisdom of continuing the campaign. But Camillus, a brilliant and charismatic leader, refused to give up. He inspired his men with speeches of Rome's destiny and the glory that awaited them. As the years passed, the Romans adapted their strategy. They built tunnels beneath the city walls, hoping to undermine them and create a breach. This was no easy task, as the Veientines were vigilant and often discovered the tunnels. But the Romans persisted, driven by their belief in their cause. One day, a Roman soldier overheard a Veientine prophet declare that the city would not fall until the waters of the Alban lake were drained. The Romans, always superstitious, took this as a sign. They consulted the oracle at Delphi, who confirmed the prophecy. Camillus ordered the construction of a drainage channel to lower the lake's water level. This feat of engineering not only fulfilled the prophecy but also demonstrated Rome's resourcefulness and determination. In 396 BCE, after 10 long years, the Romans finally achieved their goal. A tunnel they had dug beneath the city walls reached the temple of Juno, the patron goddess of Veii. According to legend, the Roman soldiers heard the Veientine king performing a sacrifice and interpreting the entrails as a sign of victory. Taking this as an omen, the Romans burst forth from the tunnel and stormed the city. The assault was swift and brutal. The Veientines, caught off guard, were unable to mount an effective defense. The Romans poured into the city, slaughtering its defenders and looting its treasures. Camillus, standing in the temple of Juno, declared that the goddess had chosen Rome as her new home. He ordered the statue of Juno to be taken to Rome, where it was installed in a temple on the Aventine Hill. The fall of Veii was a turning point in Roman history. It marked the end of Etruscan dominance in central Italy and established Rome as the region's preeminent power. The conquest of Veii brought vast wealth and territory to Rome, fueling its expansion and growth. Camillus was hailed as a hero and celebrated in a grand triumph. But the victory also came at a cost. The long siege had strained Rome's resources and tested the loyalty of its allies. The distribution of Veii's lands and spoils led to political disputes, foreshadowing the social conflicts that would plague Rome in the centuries to come. The siege of Veii became a legendary tale, celebrated by Roman historians and poets. It was a story of perseverance, ingenuity, and the triumph of Roman virtue over adversity. For generations, it served as a reminder of what Rome could achieve when its people were united and determined. The sun hung low over the Tiber Valley, casting long shadows across the Roman camp. Marcus Furius Camillus stood atop a hill, gazing at the walls of Veii in the distance. The city had defied Rome for 10 long years, but Camillus knew that the end was near. His men, weary but resolute, were ready for the final assault. Tonight, Camillus said to his officers, "We will take Veii. The gods have spoken, and they are on our side." The officers nodded, their faces grim. They had heard the prophecy, and they believed it. The waters of the Alban lake had been drained, and the tunnel beneath Veii's walls was complete. All that remained was to strike. As darkness fell, the Roman soldiers gathered in the tunnel. The air was damp and cold, and the flickering light of their torches cast eerie shadows on the walls. They moved in silence, their weapons at the ready. Above them, the Veientines celebrated, unaware of the danger that lurked beneath their feet. At the head of the column, a young soldier named Lucius felt his heart pounding in his chest. He had joined the army as a boy, eager to prove himself. Now, after years of hardship, he was about to face his greatest test. He clutched his sword tightly, whispering a prayer to Mars, the god of war. The tunnel ended in a chamber beneath the temple of Juno. The Romans could hear the voices of the Veientines above, chanting and laughing. Camillus gave the signal, and the soldiers began to climb the ladder that led to the temple's floor. Lucius was among the first to emerge. He burst into the temple, his sword flashing in the firelight. The Veientines, startled and confused, scrambled to defend themselves. But it was too late. The Romans were everywhere, their battle cries echoing through the city. The fighting was fierce, but the Romans had the advantage of surprise. They cut through the Veientine defenders, pushing them back toward the city walls. Lucius fought with the strength of a man possessed, his sword striking down enemy after enemy. He could feel the eyes of the gods upon him, urging him on. By dawn, the city was theirs. The streets of Veii ran red with blood, and the air was thick with smoke. Camillus stood in the temple of Juno, his armor stained and his face weary but triumphant. He raised his sword to the sky, offering a prayer of thanks to the gods. Today, he declared, Rome has proven its greatness. Veii is ours, and the world will remember this day. The soldiers cheered, their voices ringing out across the ruined city. Lucius stood among them, his heart swelling with pride. He had fought for Rome, and he had won. The siege of Veii was over, and a new chapter in Rome's history had begun.